Hey, what's up, everybody? I just finished reading this really cool cosmology book called Astroquizzical by Dr. Jillian Scudder. Dr. Scudder is an astrophysicist and professor of physics and astronomy with the Oberlin College in Ohio. She did her PhD thesis on the collisions of galaxies, which is pretty exciting. So, Jillian had a blog where she'd post and answer questions from her students in her astronomy courses, and this blog became pretty popular, so she figured, why not write a book? So, Astroquizzical came out in 2018 and has since had a revision and an illustrated version come out. The one I read was the 2018 original, so that's the one I'm going to talk about. So, this book very much reminded me of reading Neil deGrasse Tyson books, A Brief Welcome to the Universe and Astrophysics for People in a Hurry. It was very much like those, but with a couple small differences. Firstly, when I read Neil deGrasse Tyson's A Brief Welcome to the Universe, most of it was pretty accessible, but there were some parts that were just way beyond me, and Astroquizzical wasn't like that. I mean, I definitely had to pay attention, but I was actually able to grasp all the concepts in this book. I can't exactly remember how Astrophysics for People in a Hurry was, but I remember A Brief Welcome to the Universe having some very dense material in it. But Astroquizzical did very much remind me of those books. Besides the accessibility, the other difference was, and we can't really hold this against Dr. Scudder, but she was not as good a writer as Neil deGrasse Tyson. I mean, Neil deGrasse Tyson is well regarded for his ability to engage people, so that's a pretty unfair comparison. There was nothing wrong with Jillian's writing, but it wasn't anything special. The book has these occasional passages that she calls thought experiments, which are actually just hypothetical scenarios, but I really didn't find them too creative. I felt like if I was an astrophysicist, I could have come up with a lot more interesting hypotheticals. So Jillian may not have the gift of especially interesting prose, but the subject material makes up for that. I never felt bored while reading this book. Now, the way she structures the chapters is maybe my favorite design aspect of the book. It just makes so much sense the way she wrote it. You start out talking about Earth, then the moon, then the solar system, then the galaxy, etc. You just keep zooming out and covering larger aspects. And each chapter has like subsections. I really love it when books do that. Another thing that impressed me with this book is how she managed to write so much information that felt fairly basic and important, yet most of it I'd never encountered before. That made me feel like this book was a really good find and well worth the read. I was very happy about that. So the book is 273 pages with 16 pages of some very amazing color photos and quite a few illustrations and charts and diagrams and stuff. I know these days the photos aren't that big of a deal because you can just Google what you're reading about, but it was pretty nice to see what she was talking about. And given the nature of the subject, these aren't just pictures, they are truly awe inspiring images. Every one of them ought to be able to elicit awe in a person, anybody who stops to consider what they're looking at. And the whole book is about these super fascinating topics. I'd say this is just as good as any cosmology or astronomy book I've read. Of course, I haven't read that many of them, but if I can represent people who haven't really studied cosmology, I can tell you I really liked it. And that's who I think this book was written for. I could even see like high school aged readers really loving this. So I've seen that Jillian has a new book coming out next year, which looks like more of what this book was. So if I'm feeling space vibes, as I occasionally do, I'll probably check that out. And that will cover it for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And go check out Astroquizzical by Dr. Jillian Scudder.